Tableau Public TUG, everyone. We're here to answer the questions. Why did you do that? How did you do that? And the most important question of all, how did you make it look so good? Today, our hosts are Priyanka Dabal, Ant Pulley, both are Tableau Public Ambassadors, and myself, Eric Howard, I'm a Tableau Users Group Ambassador. Ant Pulley is in the house. He's been using Tableau for 8 years, Tableau Public for 5, and he got involved in the Tableau data fam during the pandemic. Ant is a senior visualization developer at Lloyds Banking Group based in the UK. This is the UK's largest bank with over 30 million customers. If you see him at TC this month, don't mess with him. He's a black belt in Taekwondo and Tang So Do. But you might want to keep him close during data night out. He might be someone nice to have around if it gets a little sideways. Priyanka Dabal is with us today. She is a business intelligence technical lead at User in Toronto, Canada. She presented at TC22, Bring the Wow Factor to Tableau Public Portfolios. Check out her Tableau Public profile. You'll see that wow factor. She's been creating beautiful Data Plus movie Vizzes for years, before the contest even started, and a whole lot more. So thanks for hosting today, Priyanka. Our guests today are Jane Kamata, Tanya, Lomskaya, and Chimdi, Nwosu. Jane is the winner of the 2024 Tableau IronViz, Student IronViz, and will be in our community spotlight. Tanya will show us her global art trade pass visit of the day, and Chimdi will show us his call center dashboard visit of the day. As always, we'll finish with a swag drawing, so stay to the end. All right, we're lucky to have Jane Kamata with us today, the 2024 Student IronViz winner. She's a student at Northwestern University and is currently working in a full-time co-op position with Bain Capital. So, welcome, Jane.
Yes, good to be here. And I wanted to just correct it. I go to Northeastern University.
Did I get that wrong? I did
not
get that wrong, didn't
I don't want to confuse anyone.
Well, thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. How and when did you start using Tableau?
Yes, so I actually started using Tableau in high school. I was on my high school's robotics team, a first robotics team, and Tableau has a partnership with the robotics organization to give teams vouchers for Tableau. And so I was tasked with using Tableau to analyze like robot data about like competitors' robots, since we form like an alliance of 3 teams and you have to choose based on, or you would like to choose based on performance. So I made some dashboards with robot data, and that was how I kind of first started using Tableau as a freshman in high school.
That's awesome. I've never heard of high schoolers using Tableau, so I'm glad to see it happening. So when did you begin publishing to Tableau Public?
Yeah, I think I published one of the visualizations I made about robotics, but I've since hidden it since it was pretty bad. But that was the first kind of look I had at Tableau Public. And then more recently, last semester, or I guess 2 semesters ago now, I took a information visualization class at my college, and I posted all my assignments from that to Tableau Public, and my professor really encouraged that. And I also looked to Tableau Public a lot for inspiration about how to, format my vizzes for my assignments, and kind of what people were doing with dashboards and vizzes. So that was when I really started looking at Tableau Public more seriously.
Cool. How did you get involved with the Student IronViz contest?
Yeah, so actually it was my professor from that course who first talked about the student IronViz. He encourages his students to apply to it. And after I took his class, I was actually a teaching assistant for the same course. And it was the same time that IronViz Student Edition was going on. So one of the assignments for that course was submitting to Student IronViz, and I decided that I would submit alongside the students I was a TA for. So I heard about it through him, and then I ultimately decided to submit because of my professor's encouragement as well.
And you won. That's awesome. You won up to everybody.
Yeah.
So how is the student IronViz different from the TC IronViz?
Yeah, so I also made a submission for regular IronViz just for fun, but it was a lot different because student IronViz, you're given a data set and you're also like, you just make a visualization and then that's who they decide the winner based off of. There's no like round after qualification. And so it was a lot different because you kind of see this data set and then you get to think of something versus having a theme or a prompt and then finding a data set that really resonates with you and then making a viz.
Cool. So sort of like one and done instead of the whole layered competition. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, have you been using Tableau at Bain Capital?
So I don't use Tableau in where I am right now. We do have some other teams who use it, but my team usually works with Power BI because it integrates better with the software we use. But it has been interesting to kind of compare Power BI and Tableau because I hadn't used Power BI before this year. And so getting to see kind of the differences in features and what I feel like Power BI lacks compared to Tableau has been really interesting and sometimes frustrating because I'm like, oh, it could have been so much easier if I just did this in Tableau.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. Do you have a favorite Tableau project you've worked on?
Yes, so I mentioned I made an IronViz submission for fun, and I really like that project actually, almost more so than my student IronViz submission. For that, I decided to analyze text messages I've received from one of my friends, and so I ended up working with probably the most data I've ever worked with. I brought in like location data from Google Maps, which was probably like over 1 million data points because it was, all this location data over years. And I brought in like data from Instagram. I did like a data export from there. I brought in my text message metadata. And I also use Python a lot for that. So that was fun. I used like sentiment analysis libraries and natural language processing to analyze the text messages. And then I also used it for like cleaning up all that data as well. So it was really a challenge because I hadn't worked with that much data before. And then I was really happy with the final viz I made as well because I feel like it had a really strong visual connection to what I was trying to show.
Cool. What's the name of that viz on Tableau Public?
I think it's called 1,000 Words Are Worth a Picture. It's the featured viz on my profile.
All right, cool. We'll check it out. Well, what is your favorite Tableau blog or training resource?
I really like the twins. I also like, Playfair, and I like referencing the textbooks I use in my information visualization course as well. One of them was the Big Book of Dashboards, which I find really helpful for dashboard information or like inspiration. And then I also am a big fan of like Edward Tufte, and that was our textbook was his original book. So
Oh, wow.
I like thinking back on like his original principles. He was a bit of an extremist with like minimalism, but I think he had the right idea. He just went a little extreme with it.
You've all been following him, but that's old school. I'm glad to see they're using that as a textbook. So what Tableau project are you currently working on?
Yes, so right now I'm working on something related to subways in America. I'm in Boston right now, and we have the subway here. I think it's one of the oldest subways in the US. I know we have the oldest station, but I'm not sure about the tracks. But anyways, I wanted to make something with networks. I hadn't done that before, so I'm using, I think, Gephi. It's like GEPHI to make the network, and then I'm visualizing different subways in America and pulling in some other data like how old each station is and ridership and stuff like that. So it's taking a while to manually get all that data around, but I'm excited to have the final result.
Nice. Well, we look forward to seeing that as a visit of the day someday. All right, and let me not stop recording, but let me share my screen again. And I wanted to make a point that our next speaker, Tanya Lomskaya, has today's visit of the day. So besides the visit of the day that she will be presenting us in a moment, she has today's current visit of the day. Oh, I did not share that, did I? Did I? Okay. So go check it out. And thank you, everyone. Ant, take it away.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Jane, for that. It was really interesting. So I'm going to introduce you to Tanya with a little bit of a blurb. So she's from Belarus, and as a young child dreamt of writing fairy stories. As she grew up, she moved to Moscow, where she became a journalist. And having a brother who's a programmer and a sister who's an artist, she seems to sit in between them quite well. And it wasn't until 2022 when she was exposed to us, the data fam, that she realized she could build stuff herself, or build some things that sort of combine these two. And obviously, since writing my intro, she's got a new visit of the day. So I was going to quote that you had three visit of the days. You've actually got 4 visit of the days now. So the data fam's been really welcoming of your beautiful vizzes and the sort of art style you've got in your vizzes. And what you've said to me is that you use programming a lot in your vizzes, particularly in Python. So a good blend of your siblings there. And outside of Vizzing, she's got a bachelor's degree in social sciences and an MA in media comms, and enjoys cycling, cooking, and playing the piano. It's a nice range of skills. And you're going to take us through your viz, as we mentioned earlier, on global art travel paths. So I will pass over to you.
Thank you so much for this nice presentation and for your congratulations. Okay, let me share my screen. Do you see it? Great. So hello everyone, one more time. My name is Tanya, and I recently started my new career path and as a freelance Tableau developer. And first, let me tell you some more things about myself. I came from the media sphere. For almost 10 years, I've been a journalist and then an editor in leading Russian independent media outlets. And throughout all my career, I was focusing on topics like financial markets, insurance, budget spending, central bank, everything connected to money. And due to the specifics of this sphere, a lion's share of my stories were based on the open data analysis, was this state statistics or just all kinds of financial and corporate reports. And so when I first got introduced to Tableau in late 2022, for some time, for quite a long time actually, my former profession really influenced what I was doing with the tool, and in particular, it led to the appearance of the viz I'm speaking about today. So, how the idea came to me. It seems to me that it was even before I knew anything about Tableau. I was working on some story, and we were trying, as far as I remember, we were trying to understand how certain goods get into the country via intermediate countries. So we were trying to recreate trade chains, and so I started searching for some data to ground my story. And this is how I came upon UN Comtrade database for the first time in my life. And I was seeking the answer for a particular question, but I started looking through these lists of different items that were traded throughout the world. And there were just thousands of them. And it was like so interesting. There were not only just some significant things that I put on a slide, but something very strange, like, for example, traveling circuses or international trade of race horses or bees. I didn't know, I had no idea about how international trade by bees is organized, and I thought that I would like to know. And in general, for anyone who is always in search by his or her profession for some story, this looked like a real treasure chest. But the data was not organized in a proper way to somehow show the general picture, the snapshot of a particular market. So at that time, I didn't have any technical skills, and I just let this idea go. However, last summer, when IronViz topic was announced, and it was advanced chart types, it seems to me, I thought that this is kind of a cool excuse for me, at least to try do something with that idea that was circulating in my head for some time already. And so I started thinking about which market to visualize, and I chose arts for a couple of reasons. First of all, I was an amateur art lover, and at the same time, I have never tried to look at this market as a market. I mean, from the economical point of view. And secondly, there were some patterns in this data. I mean, I looked through the data and I cannot explain what I expected to see there, but it looked like there were two huge traders like the US and the UK, from which these artworks were spreading around the world. And it seemed like in most cases, they ended up in some uncertain areas, bunkers, free trade zones, or even like very, very poor countries where you don't expect to find, I think, like many artworks, actually. So it seemed quite intriguing to me, and I decided to take this one. And the idea of my chart, it actually didn't, it wasn't to tell a story, because one of the criteria for IronQuest is storytelling, but I actually didn't, I wasn't going to do that. I wanted to create some kind of, if you want to, infrastructure for me, for my peers, for anyone, to get as much information as possible about a particular market. So I started seeking for some examples of such works already implemented. I cannot say that I found many, but I will tell you just about a couple. This one, it's not a data viz, like it's not a visualization. It's more like scientific chart, right? I found it on ResearchGate, but here, like the main principles are already here. You see that they divide nodes by color, exporters and importers. They show, they join each country to its main, it seems to me, exporter. And they show the trade flow with arrow, which I didn't like, because you either don't see this arrow like here, or you make it big and so it becomes cluttered. But however, this was the first example, like live example. The second was created by, sorry my pronunciation, Maurice Stefanier for Citigroup. And it is already looks more like data viz. So he shows these trade flows with these divergent curves, and he beautifully places these nodes on a map that we don't see, but we guess it's there, right? However, he has limited number of nodes of countries, so it looks beautiful. If we take like 200 and something countries, it will be also a complete mess. However, the principles here are the same. So he also divides exporters and importers by color, and he shows this. He shows bilateral trade flows, by the way. So in general, I got my picture of what I wanted to create, and so let's take a closer look at our database. I need to tell a couple of words about it because it has its advantages. First of all, it's free of charge. and you can just get you the data really fast via API request. Also, it is very detailed. You, for example, can extract the data not for just artworks, but for example, paintings aged 100 years plus, for example, something like that. But at the same time, it has the same drawback as any database connected to trade data. What I'm talking about is, this is about how countries report their trade. First of all, exports and imports are reported a bit differently in terms of taxes. But that's not the only case. Countries differ in exchange rates. Countries differ in how they report their free trade zones, and so on and so on. So there are lots of slight differences that in the end lead to discrepancies in this bilateral data. And I would say that the common rule is that the data on the same transaction between two countries doesn't match. Then like it's more often it is different. And so what I wanted to say by that is that I would not judge particular amounts of money by this database. However, to build a network to identify trade links, I think this quality is enough. As far as we don't have anything better. So this is how my retrieved data looked like. We've got two separate tables, export and import, and we've got reporters and the information they give us about their partners and amounts of money. So main problem here is this one. Here's Antarctic. Of course, it doesn't have any administration and it doesn't give reports to the UN about its trade, but we need it in our data. So what I did, I just used partners data, of course. Same thing I did to all like unspecified zones. Same things I did to countries that for some reason have closed their trade statistics. However, if you have two countries which have closed their statistics here and here, you of course will not identify this transaction. My key table was export table by which I built my network. I just visualized these flows to explain it better. From this table, I took the destination of trade flow. I just compared these two destinations, two amounts of money. Also, I took a number of trade links for each country and each country's key supplier. To define the size and the color of each node, I summarized each country's total exports and imports. So to define I sized the nodes by the country's total trade. So here, for example, I show the data for the UK. I summarized its total exports and imports to define the size, and I compared its total exports to its total imports to define its color. So it exported more, so it's an exporter. And here I stumbled upon the tool problem. My first move, of course, was to go to Art Vizzes and build my network there. But if you have ever tried this tool, and I think any JS tool will give you just centers of the nodes. And I needed these points because I wanted to show my links. The links here are essential, and I need to show them from the beginning to the end. So this was a problem. For example, imagine that this node is like huge country monopolist, like China can be a huge pancake occupying like half of your canvas, and you won't see like most of your link. It will be covered by your node. So this is how I found GraphViz. I was searching for some alternatives, and now I will show you something. Do you see? Did it change my screen, right? Did I leave my presentation?
Yes. No, sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to unmute. Yes, you've changed.
So GraphViz is an open source tool that it seems to me it was invented by AT&T somewhere in the 90s to create flow charts, first of all, and network graphs. So they have all kinds of different flow charts here. And they have a Python extension, which I used. They have R extension, and which is cool. They have some playgrounds, so I can show you something in the real life and not show you my kilometers of my code. Let's take the simplest chart here. This is just one connection, right? This is how it works. Like I did everything with code, but I will show you just. This is the link. If we want to put some attributes, we just do it in square brackets.
Sorry, Tanya, we can't see. We can't see what you're doing just at the moment.
Sorry,
there it is. Thank you.
Yeah, I went but didn't take it with me. Okay. So this is a connection. And here, if we want to put some attributes for the nodes, we just put them in square brackets, like shape circle, right? Same thing for another node, and I don't know, link also can have some attributes, for example. Right. So this is just the simplest example. The main thing here for us is that we can, this is a JSON format for the same graph. And here we've got our coordinates for, I again forgot to take it with me. This is the same graph just in JSON format. And we've got the coordinates for each link. We've got one link, so these are our dots. So we can just extract our dots from this document and put it into our CSV file, for example. And one more thing to share with you here. This is how one of my artistic charts looks like, fully coded in GraphViz. So this is how it looks like in the code. We put general node attributes, we put general edge attributes, and here we define all our nodes with their individual attributes, and we list all our links, if you wish to, also with individual attributes. So, but you need to be cautious with this too, for several reasons. First of all, by default, it sizes the nodes by the length of their labels. So you need to set a particular parameter to prevent that. Secondly, GraphViz sizes the nodes by their diameters, and Tableau sizes them by area. So before, like I sized my nodes by total trade. So before putting the diameters, I made a pre-calculation. And maybe the most annoying thing is that you cannot preset your width and height ratio for your chart. So it will create some layout. You can set width, for example, but it will be set after the layout is created. So what I did, I put this Python extension to a loop, and so it created the layouts for me until they fit a particular very narrow like range, so that the chart is close to the square shape. So here we've got all our pre-calculations, we've got our coordinates, and we add, what should we add? We should add the individual index to each node and to each link, and we should add path points to each link, like 0 and 1, to make a path in Tableau. And from this point, we can go to Tableau finally. I will just, 1 second. Let me check, yeah. So actually here, the complicated part is over. I use map layers. You can use just dual axis here. So we put nodes. Sorry. We put nodes, individual indexes. We put links, their indexes. Here we've got shapes. Here we've got line, and also we put path into path window. Now we get rid of the map. And now we get rid of all this stuff. my favorite part of data visualization. So I sized the nodes by total trait. Where is it? Where is it? Ah, here. So I rescaled it just a bit because the difference between the nodes can be huge. So for us to see all the nodes on the canvas, I just made a like minimum size, so under which they cannot go. So we put it to this size. Where's the dimension? And I also created widths for the links for them to be divergent. Links widths. To right. Okay. Don't like it. Okay. We need to make the nodes bigger. It would be like this. I forgot something. Yeah. To put the shape. Sorry. Yeah. So here we put shape. Apply. And colors. Okay, I didn't say this. Link widths, how I calculate link widths, it's very simple. At the beginning of the link, I put 0, and at the end, I put 1. So you can just create this divergent link. I colored the nodes by trait status. Color. And I colored the links by the trait status of the source node. Link color. To color. Attribute. Discrete. I will make it black for you to see. This is how it looks like now. And we also need labels. Here also, I've always forget to comment on this. Links color. This is how I colored the links. If the path is 0, so they will be black or close to black. And if the path is 1, they will be colored dependent on the source node. Okay, and we need labels. The labels I filtered because we cannot put everything on the screen. So for the labels, I took the labels that for the nodes whose links number exceeds 4, or the nodes that constitute 75% plus of maximum trait. Okay, we put them here. Allow, center. And here. For the labels colors, I usually, it's export. To color the labels, I usually mix, if it's dark mode, I mix the main color with white, like 50-50. Okay.
Hi, Tanya. I'll just ask a quick question.
Oh, yep.
Yep, no, just a few people have asked how you got the faded shape. So your circle with the
How I got
graded color of your circle. How did you get
Yeah, I couldn't find appropriate the shape that would suit me enough, so I just coded this shape, guys. It's just lots of small dots, actually. I'm just stuck because I suddenly forgot how to center them vertically. This is so. We've got our chart and we can put it on the dashboard. I have already set my background here. For the background, I often, like here, I use Inkscape because it has first of all, like open source, and also it has some cool designing options. So I utilize this tool a lot. TUG sheet, it seems to me. Right. Right. Sorry. Floating. And don't remember. Something like 250. Wait. And like this, something like this. So, and yeah, I need to fix size a bit. It's not easy. Well, something like this. So generally, this is how it looks like for a single chart and without yet my interactivity elements. So let's come back to the presentation. I will tell you something else. Here. Okay. Some words about the design. As this chart is very complicated, it's monstrous and bright. I tried to keep everything else just as minimalist as possible. Here I used only functional elements. I used lots of white space, and also because I had lots of complicated layouts, which I needed to place beautifully on the screen. I used only 2 colors, divergent gradient links to avoid arrows clutter, as I said already. And I used semi-transparency for the nodes, not for, it's not for the beauty, it's more like for functionality than for the beauty. It's not that well seen on this particular chart, but if you have some, like another example of chart, for example, these nodes could be big and many links could go behind them. So you need to see them. That's why I used the semi-transparency. And as for interactivity design, it just served the initial goal to extract as much information as possible. I used toggle buttons to switch between my different product types. I use highlighters to find individual countries and country groups. And I put some additional information into my node and link tooltips like total exports and imports, and key exporter for each country, and all the countries to which this country is a key exporter. So from my point of view, what adds to the look of this graph? I think this is, first of all, this is a layout, because it looks quite intriguing for me. Actually, this is a force-directed graph, which you can find in networks. And so links design, I've told already about this. For color palette, it seems to me I don't remember exactly, but it seems to me I found something already set in the internet. I was searching, as I already understood that I have semi-transparency and a dark mode. I was searching for something appropriate. So I found a 2-color palette. I made exporters like brighter, like splashes of light. I made importers a bit more darker, so they are kind of consuming And also I utilize lots of white space. I have already told you about this. So this is how you create this type of chart. I think this is not an often used case, but in cases like this, when you need to show some flows between like countries or entities, this could be a way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. I love how you get to see a lot of the data stuff, and then suddenly in Tableau, it just seems so easy because you've done all that prep. I think when we had our call, we had a pre-call for this, and Chimdi made a comment that it's really important getting that data prep right if you want to create something beautiful and make it easy to do in Tableau. So I think that's really clever what you did there. I had a question about, obviously you've used a lot of coding in the background, and you say you've done that in other vizzes. Do you tend to do that most of the time? Do you tend to code a lot before you viz, or do you do much just in Tableau?
It's a good question. At some period of time, coding really helped me to achieve some things that I wanted to. Like, I sometimes do strange things in Tableau. I'm just trying some to create something like from my head, and coding really helps me just to bring my ideas to life. And it actually became a great motivator for me to develop my coding skills. If you are interested in this particular chart, this implied coding a lot, but because I used the Python extension of this tool, it seems to me that you cannot work with it if you are not a coder at all. Just maybe in playgrounds, but it's very it's not an advanced way. So, but if you are working with some like Python or R, you can just do this easily. And also, yes, and shapes. I create shapes, and yes, I utilize it quite often. I must say that like the time passed, and when I kind of while I was becoming like better in Tableau, it seems to me that I started using coding a little bit rarer. I mean that I started like utilizing Tableau more actively, like to create visualizations in Tableau. Yes, but at some point of time, it really like this like when I utilized both instruments, it really helped me to advance.
Brilliant, thank you. I was just scanning the questions. We had one a while back, just asking about how you imported the data into Tableau. Had you created a file in Python or something?
I usually create a CSV file, and I usually, my charts are not always replicatable because of that. I like to pre-calculate almost everything in in Python, for example, and then I create just the CSV file and put the ready set data to Tableau. So I just need to make some calculations to bring this to life. So I made this in Jupyter Notebook, it seems to me. I just joined all the data, extracted the data, joined everything, and just this was like that.
Brilliant. Thank you. I don't think I can see any more specific questions. There's lots of very impressed people on the chat, which is not surprising. So if anyone's got any more questions, ping them in. But no, everyone's saying thank you, amazing, lots of good things. So thank you very much for sharing, and congratulations again on your fourth.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I will pass over to Priyanka.
Thank you, Ant. And Tanya, that was a very interesting presentation. I think many of us were like totally awed on the whole process that we didn't get a chance to ask a question. But I would definitely go back and explore the resources that you have shared.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, so our next speaker is Chimdi. Chimdi, are you I don't see you on the. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Hey. Right. So Chimdi is no stranger to the data community. If you have, I'm sure you have come across his work, which is completely amazing. He is a database designer. He's currently a database manager at Post Media Network, and he is a current Tableau visionary, a 2 times Tableau Public Ambassador. No surprise there. And he, if you know about the Vizzy Awards that happen every year at Tableau conference, Chimdi has 6 Vizzy Awards. Again, no surprise there. And also 11 Viz of the day. So you can imagine our dilemma of choosing one Viz to ask him to present, because there are plenty of them that we would love to see from him. So I don't want to take more time here because I'm very excited about the Viz that he's going to present. But just want to put a note out here that if you have any questions, please do put on the chat and we'll definitely go over them towards the end. With that, Chimdi, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Priyanka. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are. So my name is Chimdi, and I'm going to quickly just do a quick share while I'm going in here. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Awesome. So today, we're going to be doing a quick walkthrough of, oops, 1 second. Okay, so I'm not quite sure. Do you see just the slides?
I actually don't see anything on my screen.
Okay.
Let me check. No.
Sorry, guys. Just a quick moment. Do you see my screen now?
Yeah, I see the presentation.
Okay, awesome. So my name is Chimdi, and today I'm going to do a walkthrough of my RFD call center dashboard, and I'll just quickly share how it's going to go. For those who haven't seen the dashboard, I'll do like a quick walkthrough on Tableau Public just so that you can know exactly what we're going to be digging into. And then I'm going to talk about how the project came to be, why I did it. I'm going to share some of the resources that are available on Tableau that kind of helped me go through this project, and a lot of other people too who also took part in the challenge. And then we're going to talk about the process of how it came to be, which would essentially be similar to the process I take with a lot of the community challenges. So I find a lot of people have always been curious about, where do I find the data? How can I practice? And so I've kind of tailored this in a way where I show how I've gone through this over the years, seeing as, the community challenges were a big part of my Tableau journey. So I've tried to incorporate that in here. And then we're going to talk about certain things in the dashboard that I felt accomplished what I was trying to accomplish and why they were able to do that. And then, of course, any kind of questions we have, I'll be happy to dig into that. So this is the dashboard. This is just a picture. We're going to jump into it right away. It's got 3 views: overview, agent, performance, and client detail. So a quick summary. Hi.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I think we see your screen as presenter mode, not as not as a complete slide.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I just have to do a quick swap of my screens there. Okay, let's try this again. Do we see the...
No, it's good now. Just the whole screen.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome, thank you. So I'm just gonna jump into the dashboard right away. Again, hopefully this can continue a lot smoother from here. And I think we should be good, but I want to do a quick check. We can see the dashboard.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is the dashboard in question. It's a call center dashboard that was built as part of a community project, RWFD, which we'll talk about in a second there. The whole goal is to essentially build out business dashboards, share them with the community. And in this case, we're going to be analyzing a call center. So here's the first view where it's an overview. And the idea is to look at the overall activities of how this call center is doing. So we can see here incoming calls. We view the current period, the 24-month trend, and a few comparisons. And we have that same analysis. We're looking at other metrics like talk time, abandoned calls, wait to answer, and your basic metrics that are going to be, standard for call metric operations. We're looking at all of that stuff here. And then down here, we also get to look at just the overall volume of calls. And then we look at other aspects such as the clients that are being helped and the agents that are helping the clients. That's the first view. The second view kind of dives deeper now to see, okay, the agents that are supporting the call center, what do those look like? And so over here, we have a similar view of performance where we get to see agents compared together for incoming calls and their CSAT scores. We look at some more metrics over here. We look at some more issues that they're resolving, and then we see the clients that are being assisted here. After the agents part, we're going to dig deeper again to the client aspect of things. So we're essentially saying these are the calls, these are the agents that are dealing with the calls, and these are the clients that are being assisted with the calls. So that's essentially how to think about this dashboard from the perspective of the call center. So as far as the client scope for this particular view, we're looking at essentially just the overall incoming calls, and we want to be able to use this as a driver for exploration. So essentially, we see these are the total calls, and then these are the issues that were presented from those calls. And then down here, we see the client. So similar fashion, we get to see things like what is the CSAT score for the clients, incoming calls from this client, the average wait till answer, the talk time, et cetera, et cetera. So the metrics are basically tying together the agents and the clients, and combined together, we have our call center. So now that we have this, I'm gonna jump back now into my presentation. So one more check. Can we see the PowerPoint properly?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. Thank you. I think presentation is good now, so I'll stop worrying. All right. So the challenge, the dashboard we just saw there, it's inspired by a community challenge called Real World Fake Data. And so something about it that really, stuck out to me is it was inspired by Makeover Monday, which was something that, I had been doing now, I think for about over a year. And the whole idea is that, at that point in time in my life, this Viz was made in 2022, by the way, just for some context, I was still sort of, I had that yearning to just learn, figure out how I liked to do what I wanted to do and how to meet, the standards that are expected of someone who would be producing quality dashboards. So I was doing a lot of challenges. And so when this came out, I saw it as an opportunity to essentially go through the whole rigor of thinking, planning, and executing a business dashboard. And for those who, have or were a part of this, you could kind of see just different people's perspectives on, what meeting a customer's request would be like. You could see and be inspired by the different ways and the designs and things like that. And so for those who maybe would be curious about, the data and the challenges not going on right now, but it's still live in the sense that you can go to the website, Sons of Hierarchies, and how it was conducted is all the data sets are essentially posted here. You go grab the data, you download it, and then essentially you build your own dashboards. And so for this particular one, it was a part of season 2, where the theme was to actually now look at Tableau accelerators, right? And so that's something we're going to also look at in a moment there. Tableau accelerators are basically a way to help speed up your development process. And in this case, we're using the call center accelerator. So essentially, to get to that, we essentially now are in the part of preparation and resources with respect to initiating this dashboard. And the reason why I'm highlighting this specific pivot point is because every time I post a dashboard, I cannot count the number of times people are like, how can I get the data? How can I get to do something like this? And so for this one here, it's from the Tableau Accelerator compilation, which is hosted on the Tableau Exchange, right? For those who are not familiar with the Tableau Exchange, this is what it looks like here. It's a website that kind of takes you a little bit beyond just your basic in Tableau desktop functionality. You can start to look at extensions, accelerators, connectors for different other ways of accessing data. In this case, we're looking at accelerators, which is the dashboard components of essentially helping us get there. So when you want to find something like this, in this case, I used the call center one. So I would search here, call center. And literally the first thing that pops up is the call center accelerator. So, I would click there. And one key thing about this is that a lot of thought has been put into by Tableau and a few developers and the teams that are into showing examples of what good analysis is like. And so to accompany the pre-prepared dashboard and data sources, we have descriptions of what is there. And essentially you have a whole write-up of your fields, et cetera, right? Once you're done looking at what you want to do, you would just download this dashboard to whatever location you want to. Okay, so something is going on here, but essentially this was the starting point for this challenge here. And the data and everything you would just get into Tableau and develop based on what's already existing there. So in this case, essentially the process from start to finish would be gathering the resources like I just showed here, which is going to the Exchange, searching for the accelerator, and you download it in Tableau Desktop. And then when I was done that, which is again, the exploration part is going to be similar across all the projects. So in this case, I reviewed the description so that I could understand like what is there, what is available for resources, what has Tableau done in the way of like getting this set up and ready for us. And then in Tableau, I would essentially explore the existing views. What are the calculations that have been done by the pre-developers? And then is there anything that maybe I want to change there? And then this number 3 part here, I find that, it's a little bit of extra work that kind of goes into the process of my projects, but I found it pays off really well in terms of really connecting the insights to what you're trying to communicate. So what that is like, let's say in this case, it's a call center dashboard, right? And if you've dealt with, any sort of business, you customer service, you kind of understand that that's coming through from a call center. So we may know kind of what happens there, but I wanted to kind of dig deep from like an operational standpoint to see, okay, what are the KPIs, right? We have some definitions, but what do they mean? And in addition to what they mean, how does that actually affect the business, right? So when we see something like a specific number going this way, what does that mean for performance? So that way, when I'm analyzing the data, right, you have a good business context for what you're analyzing, as opposed to maybe just say showing numbers. So now that I've done all of that stuff, now I understand, like, okay, here's the data that's available. Here's what's been done by Tableau in the way of how they have shown some of their analysis. And now that I understand what the operations of a call center like, what do I want to do, right, with what's been here so far? So from there, I'm going to move on now, and I defined my key analysis components for the dashboard, which I'm going to highlight in a second here. And then after I've highlighted my key components for analysis, then of course, the next logical step would be to plan out, how am I going to show the analysis? Is there a specific layout that perhaps lends itself better to certain things about the analysis? Is there a specific theme for my colors? Or is it going to be just a random theme, et cetera, et cetera? And then once that's all done, of course, we're going to jump to the final dashboard build. And so that was everything from start to finish. Of course, I would say, like, this process, it does differ a little bit from, say, if you were to be working on an actual work project where you may have to go talk to customers. But from the community perspective, I find this really similar. You're basically just accessing your stuff that's been provided by, you know, your hosts. You're exploring, you're figuring out how you want to kind of execute on that, and then you're executing on that essentially. So going back to the dashboard and the key analysis components that sort of brought it all together. When we think about a call center, like I said, there's different ways to look at that. But for this perspective, I broke it out. We have the agents, the calls, and then of course the clients that are coming with the issues. And so when you're thinking and seeing what we're going to be looking at on the dashboard, you're going to be noticing that a lot of the analysis and a lot of the narrative is based around these components over here. So going back now to the overview and the layout execution, for this one, what I really wanted to do was sort of show a bit of the high level performance, right? So with that, a few design points. I like to use the Z layout, which for those who don't or may not have heard what this is, essentially it leverages the natural head movement and movement of eyesights of human beings to make it easier for them to follow things on the screen. So essentially the whole idea is, like, people start from the far left, and then you're naturally going to go this way, and you're going to go down, which then forms a Z pattern as you're trying to ingest content in front of you. So I try to leverage that with my dashboard. That way, of course, the goal of all of this is to quickly make the insights jump out. And doing something like this, I felt, was a way to really do that, given that we have a lot of charts. And then, of course, on the left-hand side, as the standard with any business dashboard, you'll typically have a container on the left-hand side, which you're going to have as, you know, maybe some navigation buttons, some filter explorations, and some branding, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, I wanted it to be all super clean. So I just have navigation buttons, RFD branding. Logo here is basically just a logo I created for my business years ago in Illustrator. And I wanted to test out what it looks like on a dashboard. So I utilized it here. And so essentially with this pattern here, I tried to keep it the same with the other views, where here for the agent performance, and I'm going to go back to the dashboard a little bit just so we can explore more later. But for the agent performance, we have a similar thing. What I try to do is you have a main chart that controls the dashboard, but you still have that Z layout that allows you to kind of have that natural flow of information. So in this case, we have the agents that are on the top left, which is where the eyes are naturally going to go based on that thing which we now know about how people consume information. So we have our agents listed here. We have their incoming calls and the CSAT score, which gives us a nice overview. Okay, these are how the agents are doing. And of course, we have them listed with the bars so we can compare them to one another just at a high level, right? And so for our selected agents, we're going to see here, for example, let's take Margaret Von Emten. She's selected here. And so the entire dashboard is going to be filtered to see what she's doing. And so now I'm going to jump onto Tableau Desktop just so you can actually get to see what that looks like and how I thought about giving that experience to the user. So can we see the view in Tableau Public?
Yes, yeah, we see that.
Awesome, perfect. So going back to what I was saying here. So for example, now we see Margaret selected, and naturally we're gonna jump to the right-hand side. So we're looking at the answered calls, the first call to resolution, and the abandoned calls. So with Mary selected, the first thing I wanted to do is make it really clear who is actually the person in question. So I've highlighted that the selected agent is this. And so right over here, we can see Marguerite. And then the other small circles are there too. So not only do you get to see, okay, here's how she's doing, you get to see how she's doing in the context of performance with her other agents. And in this case, we get to see very clearly, like this is one of our top performers with, well, not top performers, but she's handling, or he or she's handling a lot of volume with respect to answered calls. And we also have the median line there, which shows that, okay, these are the amount of people that are above and below, but then you can also see very clear about who's selected. So in this way, you're getting to see the current period. This is what they're doing. This is how she is with the compared to the other agents. And then here you get to see essentially those comparisons for her own. And that kind of falls through for the whole thing. And then you go from this portion, and then naturally you're going to come down here. You get to see these are the issues being handled by the agent. And of course, this is the clients that are being assisted by this particular agent. So for example, now you want to see, okay, this person has handled the most amount of calls. Let's see who's maybe handling the least amount of calls. Potentially you can scroll down here. Okay, let's see, small number, maybe Tamara, for example, you would click there. And now you see the whole dashboard, it looks different. So now this person is over here at the back. It's very clearly highlighted who they are. You can still see the difference in the comparison with all the other agents, right? The trend here and the comparison is customized. So that way, even though the view is focused on a particular agent, there's still that kind of comparison for how that person is performing relative to the other agents. So you're not just looking at that one person in isolation, even though technically the view is a filtered view to show one agent. So that was kind of some of the thoughts that went into this particular here view. And then on the other one, it's a similar kind of idea where I wanted to give kind of control charts for some context. Actually, you know what? So I'll just quickly highlight the Z pattern, which again, this one seems pretty obvious. You're starting from here, you're going here, and naturally you're kind of following that flow. So that whole view and method of creating layouts, I found it's really productive for delivering business dashboards. It's not the only way, but I'm sharing that because it's something that's worked for me. So if you wanted to try it out, I say that you can and see how that works well. So with that said, jumping back to the dashboard on Tableau Public. So for that third view here, just to show how that works with respect to the thinking, that control pilot view would be the incoming calls. And so to help contextualize the exploration, we can see maybe naturally, obviously for a call center, we want to say, okay, when are we having the most calls, right? And now it's very obvious that on Wednesday at 11 a.m. for this period of time, this is where we had the most calls. So we can now click here. The view is filtered. And so now what we see is the client detail that's specific to this point in time, right? Where we can see that the amount of calls that came in for the entire period were these many, but we're looking at these much. And so for the issues that came in, we can clearly see here, these were the issues, how they're broken out. These are the clients, the scores by those clients, calls, wait to answer, talk time, first contact, et cetera, et cetera. So that way, again, it's very easy to kind of get that big picture, which we always want to be able to provide for people to see. But at the same time, I always like to add in some analysis components where you can drill down, but also do it in a way where that user experience isn't going to be getting more and more complicated as they drill down, essentially. So I'm going to switch back to my slides. And so what I want to do now, basically, I'm going to start to talk about, I guess, different elements about the dashboard. And so the first thing I'll look at is just the overall theme, right? So for the theme, I wanted to go with a very clean look, business look. And so in order to do that, I gave it a really muted background. So as you can see here, grays, 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 white, black. Same thing on the agent performance, very muted. And the goal is that I wanted the colors to do a lot of communication, because the idea of this dashboard is to highlight performance, with the idea being that whatever discovery you find, you're going to be taking some actions. And with the volume of information that's there, you don't want to have people just dig in. You still want to make it quick and efficient for them to find those insights. And so I thought that a really good way to do that was to just mute out everything and just use colors to speak a lot there. So that's one aspect of that. The charts were very, I guess, for me, I thought about, what would be the best way. And I think the chart selection process is a really big part of defining either whether you're going to be successful or not successful in a dashboard. And so I wanted to go through the charts that I chose for this dashboard and sort of how they work with doing what we need to do. So for the current period performance on the dashboard, I've basically just used a basic band, which is really common. For bands, I mean, some people call them big, big ass numbers. Some people call them big, whatever. So basically, they're just big numbers that just highlight performance. And so I'm using the bands with some context, which also says, okay, we had 10,000 whatever calls for this period, but how does that compare to another period, right? When we're trying to show information, it's always nice, yeah, you can show what's happening today. But if you're just telling me what's happening today, that's fantastic. But what should that make me feel, right? So the context is always great, because we know that, okay, the number of calls are down, which it may not be a bad thing. It could be that maybe people are more familiar with the product. They have less questions. Maybe it's a holiday. But the point is, we know that compared to this period last year, we have these many. And so that is just a simple, band context for the current period. And then for the current versus reference period, the comparison is always something that I'm going to put when it comes to the dashboard building, just because I think, again, having to know how we're doing compared to the reference periods is helpful. So to accomplish that with this dashboard, I'm using simple charts, bar charts, Gantt combo, where you can see here the bar charts, current period, the Gantt chart, reference period, whatever that is. And so you can easily see what's underperforming. And then in a case like this, what's above the previous period there. Next, for the trends, I basically used two types of charts. And so for the first one, it's basically just like a column trend chart where we're looking at the current period as the bars. And then we have for the reference period, these little circles here. So the whole idea is I wanted to still make the current period the focus, but still give some kind of context for the period. And so I'm using these small circles. They're light gray, and they are, highlighted with outlines, so you can still see them, but they're not overshadowing the current period. For this part over here, this chart was more to show the 24-month trend. So I did just like a basic simple area chart muted out. And then I'm utilizing these little circles to highlight the maximum point and the minimum point in the trend for whatever metric we're looking at. So that way we can see, as far as trends analysis go, this is the current period we're in compared to the previous period that's happened, but also here's the entire timeline. And so if there is any additional information that's standing out from the trend perspective, we're still able to see that, and we can explore all of that information by using these two together. So next, I utilized pie charts. I know that in the community, there's this debate on whether or not you should use pies or not pies. Sorry, these are donut charts, a variation of the pie chart. I personally say, like, I don't care. I use them when I think they work well. And this is one example where I thought that they worked really well, because what you'll notice is that there are 6 dimensions, right? For example, in this view, we have 6 issues. And rather than trying to squeeze all the 6 slices onto one donut, I decided to just spread them across. So you have one individual donut for an individual issue. And so in this case, you're not going to have any issues actually getting to see. And because of the proportions add up to 100%, but they're spread out, you can still kind of tell and still kind of see the comparisons as to what's what. And if you're not, necessarily one who wants to try to use the visual aspect, then I've kind of had and went to add the labels inside the middle of the pie, just again with the business dashboard, as you want to make it as quickly. So, some people are going to want to just have a visual estimation and they'll look at it and the numbers may not register. For others, they don't even care, such as like, give me the actual number. And so with these pies, you have enough of a spacing by leaving them separate. You have the labels by still putting the information there, and essentially you're adding just, enough context for people to see. Like, for example, here, I've leveraged the center a little bit differently. Rather than just showing like, percentage of total, I'm showing the volume, the percentage, and we're adding a little bit of context here. So that's one way that I found donuts and pies to be useful, is like you can show the slices, but to make it even easier and more, I guess, forgivable / justifiable for using a pie, you can add in the information there, and now it becomes something it works well for you. So in this case, that's what I did with the pies. If you feel that's something that you can use this as an example. This is experimental. I think it works well. You can use that too. The final set of charts we have is a heat map style chart, which I leveraged. I'm gonna just pop back into the dashboard a bit to show. Those were mainly to highlight the trends for volume. So you can see here one style of that where it's just like plain, minimal, and I'm highlighting just the maximum and the minimum value. And it's combined with, column charts and bar charts to kind of pull it all together. And then on this view here for the agent performance, I've used it in a different way where it's still using the similar gray heat map to pull your eyes to the maximal values. But of course, I've added the labels just to add more context for, how is this compared to the previous period. And then on this third view here, it's now similar to the original where it's just highlighting the volume. But in order to make it easier to explore, the client perspective, I've used all the labels that are available. So essentially, it's one way that, when we're selecting charts for, a few years ago when I was like beginning, I thought that the way to have a successful dashboard is you have a lot of charts, you have a lot of variety, and, you just give that stuff there. But now I will try to stick with, if I can, the same types of chart styles for similar types of analysis. So that way, from a user perspective, and still going back to the concept of making it easier, once the mind has understood how to read and interpret a specific chart, the next time they see that specific chart, it's going to be easier for them to understand. So that's where you'll see now, pie charts here. Heat maps here. And then previously we had like the pie charts, right? same chart, different style, and same thing here. We have the trends, right? So that's just something to keep in mind when building. Like if you can, I typically recommend, especially for this business style dashboards, using the same kind of charts where possible. Makes it a bit easier for things to kind of come together properly. And so to wrap this up, I just kind of want to talk on, a few things, why this works. And just a little caveat, I would say that this portion was inspired by a post from Andy Kriebel, who is a Hall of Fame visionary. He does a few things where on a few days of the week, he'll pick a dashboard from Tableau Public and he'll kind of highlight certain things that work with it and share that with the community so that they too can also take that on their journeys and execute for success. And so some of the things that he mentioned and also some of the things that I agree with and I thought about was, we have a clean layout. And so going back to the dashboard is, you'll realize that there's a lot of information, but it's kind of set up in a way where you're not going to struggle to process that information, right? So clean layout, again, going back to the colors and the simplicity, and then also the fact of white space, which is essentially just allowing charts to breathe, right? White space, I find, is very useful in allowing people to kind of see the next thing in their line of perspective just naturally. And so giving that and making it easy for them is a way to do that. Simple charts. I know for some people, this might be, they may not assume that those things are simple in the sense that they're not just basic bars or basic whatever. But to me, those are basic in the sense that you're just using a simple chart and you're dressing it up in a way where you're utilizing its communication potential a little bit more, whether that's through combining charts or whatever the case may be. But I found for business dashboards, utilizing your bars, your area charts, your line charts, that's always going to give a lot more success in terms of giving something that actually provides a good function. Another thing is a logical flow of information, which is sort of what I touched on previously, where for the overview, we've essentially just touched on those key analysis components that I mentioned. We have the calls. And so this is highlighting everything that's going on with the calls, right? More information about the calls. And then, of course, we have the agents that are dealing with the calls. And then the clients that are bringing in the issues that are being handled by the agents that are taking the calls. And so now that we have that good perspective, the logical flow would say that, okay, let's look at the agents who are handling the calls, right? And so now we're looking at the agents that are handling the calls. And like I said before, the calls is like that center chain link that's linking the agents and the clients. And so from the agents, we're naturally obviously going to flow into the clients that are being assisted by the agents. And together we have that logical perspective of boom, boom, boom. And so whatever decisions are going to be made from not like a isolated perspective of business, but a unified perspective that's more likely to drive success for a long-term business strategy for, say, something like a call center operations like this. Easy to identify and explore the trends and insights. I think that one also might be a bit obvious just in the way that we've both utilized the colors and the labeling. And, that's something where sometimes you may have to double encode stuff to make it more settled in for the user. And so again, just the whole concept with this one was use the colors, make that stand out, make the trend stand out, like everything. And I think that it's been done successfully. If you disagree or agree, you can let me know. But again, that's one of the reasons why I think this works. And then finally, I left this for the last piece just because, I think it's extremely important, but I also don't think it's the first thing you need to focus on. And that's aesthetics of your dashboard. I've seen research that actually says that even in the C-suite, in the business rooms, users are more likely to trust information that's coming from a dashboard that looks nice, clean, professional, and aesthetically pleasing. And so this is not art class, this is not design class, but I've always felt that utilizing design, data, business, and bringing those worlds together is a key component of building a successful dashboard. And so as far as aesthetics go, I've tried to just, again, make it nice to look at by utilizing the white space, the chart proportions, using nice colors, font hierarchy, and just those little design aspects that I think kind of may not go easily noticed, but from a user perspective, you can always usually tell when you're interacting with dashboards. This one maybe feels a little easier to use. This one is fantastic, but it maybe doesn't feel the same. And I think that aesthetics, UI, UX, that's the one hidden gem that when incorporated correctly can really take a business dashboard from good to fantastic. So hopefully, those kind of pointers have been helpful in terms of thinking about execution from this business perspective. And these are some of the things that I always try to replicate from dashboard to dashboard. So that's been it for me. If you want to connect, I've got a Twitter, DataViz Chimdi. I'm also on LinkedIn. My Tableau public portfolio is right there, and my business email is right there. I'll be completely transparent. Right now, things are a little crazy, so I've not been as responsive, but I'm always open to connecting, to talk about dashboards, Tableau, anything. So if you want to just say hi, just say hi. That's it for me. I hope this has been helpful. Again, the goal of this was to sort of show the process of how I would be thinking of both executing a business dashboard and also the process of just going through that practice of, getting things from Tableau Public to build out stuff in a quick way. So I'll pass it back to the hosts. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to say thanks once again for having me over here.
Thank you, Chimdi. I think everyone is impressed for sure. There's, and I think you started a very interesting discussion of pie charts are okay. So Dennis and Ant have some funny stuff that you read about. I see one question. Just let me check that. Oh, yeah. Charlotte has asked, how long did it take you to build this whole dashboard from the discovery and the whole process?
So this one, I would say at least. Okay, let me try to remember here. I'm going to say 2 days. Main reason is because for these kinds of ones, what I'll do is I'll get into the data stuff and, make sure that I have a good idea. Then I'll just go away. And then my mind just sort of starts putting things together so that by the time I come back, it's just more like, all right, click, 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 and then just validate some of my thoughts and then iterate at the end once I've kind of put it together. So that's about, I'd say, an average. But from our perspective, all in, I'm going to say maybe 5-6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that helps.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting advice. Like, take it away and let it come to you. Thanks.
Yes, exactly. I feel like as a person who I tend to get lost in my mind a lot, you can get into the analysis by paralysis thing. So I try not to do that when possible.
I can relate. Yeah. And I see Ojosi is checking on the size. So what's the size of your dashboard that you have?
Okay. Yeah, so this is 1600 by 900. I was just going to respond to that. And that I'll say that's on the bigger size. Mm-hmm. These days, I tend to go maximum 1400, just more for scrolling and minimizing that. But of course, I'd say it's always nice to experiment and see, what works best.
Yeah. That's great. Oh, I see one more question coming up from Faith. Okay, so when did you start using Tableau?
Tableau. Oh man. So I say I found it, like I encountered it like in school in 2018, but then it was like, you don't care about those things until it means something. So in 2020 during COVID, I was talking to a friend at work. He introduced me to it and I just started to do it. So 4 years, I would say, has been like my true Tableau tenure. And it feels like much longer because I've honestly spent a lot of time in Tableau. So I'll be honest with you, like 4 years is not actually 4 years. So you can create your own timeline. That's what I'll just tell you. So I've been using it. Mine is 4 years officially, but it's much more than that from like a experience perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a. I mean, your profile clearly has that impressive that you can see that your transition from your first phase to the latest phases. So yeah, definitely, it's a great journey. All right. I think we are, I know Eric, we are a little late on time. So thank you, Chimdi. That was a very impressive presentation. If you have any questions, please do connect with Chimdi. Like he said, he is on LinkedIn and Twitter. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Chimdi. All right. Let's get together and do some swag drawings. So, oh, yep. So the swag, we'll spin it. This should go quickly. And our first winner is, oh, Jane, you just missed it. Yaroslav Tomakala, our presenter from last month. So, all right. And then next is Sandeep. No, Sanjay Jyoti. Sorry, Sandeep, you missed it. But all right, that's our two winners for this week. Please email tablowpublictug@gmail.com, and I will send you some links to fill out the form to get your swag, and we'll get it to you. It needs to be quickly within the next week, so Tableau can process it. But congratulations to all the winners. All right, and then next month we have a special treat, June 6th. We have a great lineup of all the IronViz finalists. So Chris Westlake, a data visualization developer with JLL. Jessica Moon is with SAIC in Huntsville, Alabama. And Patricia Gogova is a BI transformational analyst at Groupon. They are all at Tableau Conference competing in IronViz, and they'll be with us on June 6th to show us how they built those vizzes. So join us and see what was behind their thinking. As always, if you want your own viz of the day, build a viz that is timely or topical, highlights new features, spotlights the diverse Tableau community, includes a novel chart type or Tableau trick, communicates a key insider story, and of course, make it visually stunning. Create a viz like that and publish it to Tableau Public, and hopefully we'll have you on a future episode of the Tableau Public Tug. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and hope to see everyone on June 6th. Oh, with that, let me stop recording. And where'd it go? Stop. Go. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Wow. All right. So we lost quite a few people there at 1:30.
Yeah, it did get little. I think there were some challenges with the presentation part. Yeah.
Went a little long. Okay, it was good. Thank you for hosting.
Thanks, Eric.
See you.
See you. Bye-bye.